Hey guys, this is Don from 3D&D, and for this video we're going to learn how to make a simple sculpted piece using Tinkercad, then Mesh Mixer, then ZBrush. So first we're going to start in Tinkercad. This will allow us to make the basic shape of what we're doing. For this video we're going to just make a simple piece of wood. So let's start with a square. And for a lot of my pieces I like to make the piece of wood a 4x6. So decrease it to about 4 here. Doesn't really matter, we're just going to be learning for this video. Okay, make it a little bit longer here. So here's the basic piece of wood we'll be making. So what we'll do now is we're going to export it. In order to sculpt something, it has to be an OBJ file. So that's what we're going to save it as. Okay, once we have our Tinkercad file saved, we're going to open it in Mesh Mixer. Mesh Mixer is a free program you can get online. I'll put a link in the description. So go ahead and go to Import, then choose your file. Once your file is loaded, you will see just a 3D rendering of it. If we tap the W key, we'll be able to see the subdivision on the piece. Notice it's very low right now, and we can't sculpt with this. It will just get screwed up. You can learn more about subdivision online. Learn these key terms online. They'll help you immensely whenever you're doing this. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and go through the process. So what I like to do is I go to Edit, and I make Solid. This subdivides it down. See that? See all the triangles we have now? Way easier to sculpt with. So we accept, and we're going to go up to File. We're going to export this piece. And we'll just call it wood_sub for subdivided. That's fine. Now we're going to take our piece and we're going to open it in ZBrush. If you don't have a copy of ZBrush, you can get a trial copy online. I'll put a link in the description. Okay, we have ZBrush open. We're going to go ahead and hide this menu. I'm not going to go in too much about the controls of ZBrush because it's a learning process. I'm just going to go through what we're going to be doing to make this piece. So we'll go up to Import. We're going to bring our piece into ZBrush, so go to where you saved it. You'll see it appear over here. All we have to do to bring it into our work area is click and drag. Doesn't matter what size you make it, the bigger it looks, the easier it'll be to sculpt. So before we do anything on the work area, go up and tap this Edit button. This will allow us to move the piece around. Rotating the piece is done by holding in left click. If you hold in left click and Alt, you can move it around the work area. To move the piece closer to you, you would let go of the Alt key while holding the left click, and you can drag left and right. A little confusing, but that's how they do it on here. So once we have a decent size to work with, we need to divide it down to smaller polygons. If you notice up here we have 34,000. We need to make that a little bit higher. So let's go over to Geometry. We're going to divide the piece. I normally turn off smooth division whenever I'm working with wooden pieces. Going to divide, and we'll divide it again. Now we have a lot more points to work with here. So, for making the engravings on the wood here, I just use a standard brush. Now whenever you're sculpting, it's already set to add. We don't want that for sculpting wood. We want it carved in. So instead of add, let's set it to subtract. And this draw size is way too big for the piece we're making. Let's turn this down a little bit. Intensity means that's how deep of a carve we're going to get. 25 is normal, but you can experiment with how deep you want to go with the piece. So, all we have to do now is just start carving. You can use a mouse for this, it's fine, but I really recommend using a Wacom tablet. Makes it a lot easier. Just carve a bunch of lines in it. It doesn't have to look perfect, since we're 3D printing this and it's going to be very small. Make sure you get the other sides of it. Whenever you're sculpting things for 3D printing, you often want to keep a side flat. This will be the side that will be on the print bed, and it'll make printing easier. Don't forget to carve up the corners a little bit. And the sides. Okay, once we're done, we just have to export the piece. We go up here, go to export. I'm just going to call my piece Wood Final, save. And that's it. We now have a sculpted object piece. If we want to do any more editing to the piece or use this on a piece we're working on, I typically put it back into Tinkercad. Okay, once the piece is done, we need to remove some of this subdivision that we have. Right now the piece is too big of a file. It doesn't need to be this big. It's just being used for 3D printing. So we can go up to Z plugin. We're going to decimation master. We're going to pre-process the current. It's just going to analyze the mesh. Depending on your computer and your graphics card, it might take a little bit of time. Once that's done, we go back to Z plugin, and we're going to decimate the current. Notice how our points jump from 800,000 to much, much lower there. So once we're done with that, we can export the piece, save it. And that's it. Now we can open it back up in Tinkercad. We're going to import a piece, choose a file, our new sculpted piece. If you get an error that says there's too many triangles on it, the piece is going to have to be reduced further. That's fine, we can do that. So you'd open up ZBrush again, go to Z plugin, decimation master, we're going to bring it down even further. And export that. Okay, let's try again. Import, choose a file. Okay, and that's an acceptable size. So let's import it. This will take some time depending on your internet connection speed. And now we have our sculpted wood piece. Now we can use it just like we used our original wood piece. We can duplicate it, and we can start building props. You can do this and import multiple pieces into Tinkercad to make our finished product. Look up tutorials online on how to use Tinkercad controls, but this is basically the process I take whenever I'm making my pieces. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below and I'll try to answer it for you.